Hey, Book Dragons, I'm so glad that you're here with me today. I'm just going to get this out there right now. I am a promiscuous reader. I have multiple books going at one time. Now, I do get a little crazy with that though. And I was looking at my Goodreads and thinking to myself, wow, I have quite a few books open. And then I expanded that to see exactly how many books I have going on at one time. And I technically have 8 books open right now that I have not finished. A couple of those are on the back burner, and we'll talk about those, but realistically, I have probably way too many books going on for the average person. And I'm not the average person, so that kind of makes sense. I'm just not typical in a lot of ways. But I wanted to kind of start the conversation about reading a lot of books at one time and what that might look like for different people and why it stresses some people out and others like myself just enjoy and embrace all the chaos. And I think it would be a fun conversation to have. So as we're getting started, let me know in the comments below if you're the type of reader that likes to have a lot of books going at once, or if you tend to just stick to one book at a time, or maybe 2 at most. So I'd love to have that conversation with you. This really does all depend on the individual reader, right? I don't know that I've ever had this many books going at one time before. I usually have as many as 3 going. So for me to have 5 that are actively going, or maybe 6 that are actively going, and then a total of 8 that are still unfinished at this point, that's a lot. And I was thinking to myself the other day, like, are you crazy? Have you actually flipped at this point and lost all sense of reality to have that many books open? The more I thought about it, I'm like, no, I'm still pretty all together as much as I can be for me. And the funny thing is, I remember all of them, where I'm at in each book. I remember where I left off. I remember what had happened. Even in a couple of the books that are on the back burner, I basically know what happened and I could pick them right back up and move forward. And I probably will after I knock out a couple of others. But because I've embraced the chaos this year and I'm not really doing TBRs and I'm not really having any sort of major structure on my reading, I think that's also contributed to what could become a problem. But for right now, it's not creating a problem for me. But I can see how it could. And I'll have to be aware of that and how it is affecting me, and if I need to slow down or if I need to just stop a book altogether and pick it back up at a later time when I have less on my plate. All of these different conversations are happening in my reading life and in my reading brain. Is that a thing? My reading brain? It's like a separate compartment of my brain, I guess you could say. And trying to remain cautious and make sure that I don't get overwhelmed, but also kind of really enjoying the freedom to just be reading absolutely whatever I feel like at the moment. So it's a part of being ADHD, I guess, because I am officially diagnosed ADHD. I've just kind of always been that way. I've been able to carry on multiple different books at once. Now, maybe not multiple different tasks, different types of tasks, like, watching a movie and reading a book at the same time. I can't do that. But, it's an interesting dilemma. And I'm sure I'm not alone, but I would really like to know what you guys out there think. is this a problem? Because I know it is for some people. I know I have friends that are like, Chaz, I can't read more than one book at a time. I just can't focus. My brain doesn't work that way. And it's all up to the individual reader. But there's a lot of people that really struggle to be reading more than one book at a time. And a lot of those people are fast readers, so it's not that big a deal because, they finish a book fast and then they move on to the next one. But what's really interesting in my case is I'm a very slow reader. Not super slow. I can read pretty quick, especially if the book is really engaging, but I'm not a real fast reader either. I can't read 8 books in 1 month and finish them. That's just probably never going to be me, unless they're short books or novellas, short stories, things like that. I'm not going to be able to finish that many stories in 1 month. But there's other people that can. And maybe that's because they only read one book at a time until they finish it and then they move on. And I guess that makes me different or weird. I'm okay with being weird too. In fact, I know I'm weird. So I just wonder what people on the outside looking in think when they see somebody like me who's got all these different books going at once. Are they thinking to themselves, "Oh, we need to call the guys in the white coats to come out and get Chaz. He's lost it at this point," or is it just the approach of, well, if that works for you, that's great. That's kind of the approach that I take. When I see someone who only reads one or maybe 2 books at most at one time, I'm like, okay, hey, that's great. That works for you. All different flavors of reader, right? And so I just thought it was funny because I was doing a little bit of research on the topic and the word promiscuous came up, and I'm like, we usually think of that in terms of sexuality and sexual expression, but it kind of works for this particular topic, with having so many books going at one time and constantly diving into each different book that's on your currently reading shelf. And I think it's a mark of somebody who loves a good challenge, because it is challenging, I think, to keep up with all the books. And even though I know where I'm at in all the books I'm reading, sometimes I do have a hard time remembering, okay, how many books am I reading again and which ones are they? But then when I go and look at my list, I remember exactly where I was in that book. I just have to remember that I was actually reading that book. So, yeah, it's a challenge, and I just embrace it. Myself personally, I embrace it. I think it's a good thing for me, but I don't expect it of other people. It's one of those things that's very personal. It's how you read. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on the matter. And now I'm going to show you the 8 books that I am currently reading and let you stand and gawk at me for the chaos in my life. So we're going to start out with stuff that I'm reading on my Kobo, because I do have several of the books on my Kobo. I am currently reading The ABC Murders by Agatha Christie. That's another Poirot novel that I'm buddy reading with my friend Mona Lisa over at Mona Lisa Reads. I just started reading Dr. Sleep. That is a buddy read that I am doing with Elaine over at Cobalt Dragon and with Gareth over at Book Songs and Other Magic. And then I'm also reading Fever Dream by George R. R. Martin. And I am reading Persepolis Rising by James S.A. Corey. So that's book 7 in the Expanse series. It's really been taking me a while to get through that one. I just kind of stopped and put it down for a while, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but just because I wasn't ready to get back into it at that point. but it is a good book. I'm really enjoying it, and eventually I'll get back to it. And I do remember right where I was in the book. So, so those are the 4 books that I have open on my Kobo. And maybe this is a result of being an e-reader as well for reading ebooks. Maybe it's something to do with ebooks. I don't know, but I tend to have quite a few open at one point on my e-reader. So those are the books that I am reading currently there. And then I also have an audiobook going. I am reading Carl's Doomsday Scenario. That is book 2 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and I'm absolutely loving it. Now, that's one that I can easily just listen to when I'm doing other things. If I'm driving in the car on a long distance trip or across the city, because the city of Phoenix is quite large if you count all the different suburbs. So sometimes I do end up driving quite a bit, and I'll throw the audiobook on. So that's an easy one to find time for. And then I've got 3 physical books that I am currently reading as well. So the 2 that I'm actively reading are Brigands and Bread Knives. That's the new book by Travis Baldree in the, I don't know, I guess it's called the Territory series. Maybe. But anyway, it's one of the sequels to Legends and Lattes. It's an excellent book. I'm almost done with it. I'm about 75% in. So I'll probably finish it here pretty soon. And then I am also reading Malice by Keigo Higashino. This is a buddy read that I'm doing with Danielle over at Bookara and Fina over at Fina Reads. And we just barely started this when I'm 1 chapter in. It's really, really good. I'm quite enjoying it. It's written very differently than most mysteries that I'm familiar with. But it's a translated book from Japanese, and I'm enjoying it. So that is a new book for me that I just recently picked up to add to my crazy list. And then the final book is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. I still haven't picked this up in quite a while. It was on my soft DNF list because I plan to go back to it at a later time. And I really need to get back and decide, okay, am I actually going to finish this or am I going to DNF it? So, I don't know. But those are the 8 books that are currently in my reading mindset. I guess we'll put it that way. They're currently in my reading mindset. It's a lot. Like I said, I have never had that many books going at one time. And in a way, it's kind of daunting. And in a way, it's kind of like, oh, a challenge. I get to finish all these books, right? Or at least hopefully finish them. So a couple of these I'm going to knock out really soon. Dungeon Crawler Carl, the second book there, I'm almost done with it. Same with Brigands and Bread Knives. And ABC Murders is a really quick read. So I know that these are going to kind of rotate off my list once I finish them, and new ones are going to rotate on. So I guess you could call it a reading rotation. I've always got something rotating in and off the list. And I think that's been due to the fact that I'm just not forcing myself into a structure. And it's a kind of a good feeling. But sometimes if I'm low on energy or if I'm feeling really distracted, I'm just going to be more overwhelmed by all the books that I have to read. So I can see where it might become a problem. And it would be a problem for other people. They're just like, oh yeah, there's no way I could do that. There's probably several of you watching this video that think Chaz is crazy. And I wouldn't blame you. I probably am in some respects. And I'm kind of okay with that. So let me know in the comments below, are you a promiscuous reader as well? Do you read multiple books at one time? Are you a polybookerous person and you just like to be involved with all these different books, I would love to know that I'm not alone. I don't think I am, but I would love to know that I'm not alone. I'd love to hear from you if you're in the same boat as me. And also feel free to chat with me if that is not you, if you're completely different and you like to focus on one book at a time. I love to have this dialogue with you in the comments because we're all different. Nobody's way is the best way to read. It's whatever works best for you. And I'd love to see all the different flavors of readers showing up in my comments. So that's all I've got for you today. It's a pretty haphazard and scattered video, I guess, and I'm okay with that. I hope you are too. I hope you've enjoyed this. And until next time, make sure that you read more books, and if you want to watch more of my content, there's some ideas on the end screen here.